Hi, everybody. So, the state of the Tales of series is looking rather bleak right now after Bandai Namco has delisted multiple entries from the PlayStation 3 era and the PlayStation Vita. So, I figured it was time that I got John McBaugh on to discuss it. Yet again, with me is Johnny.
Which Johnny?
Do I need to get a baseball bat and decide which one of you to take out?
No, this isn't Split, you son of a bitch. Which, by the way, I still haven't seen that movie yet.
Me either. Maybe we should do a Discord movie night and watch that together.
Perhaps. I mean, is it a good movie though? Let us know.
I've heard I've heard it's good.
Yeah.
But anyways,
But anyway,
Tales of.
let's talk about Tales, because that is the reason. This actually came up during our discussion when we were talking about NIS.
And I was not expecting the conversation to go down that route at all.
Really?
I was kind of thrown when you mentioned it, actually. So I was like, oh, this is actually kind of a deep topic for a podcast, and I was going to do a video on it anyways. I might as well do it now with John.
Yeah, because like the Tales series, like we each kind of have our own kind of history with the Tales games. So I guess we could just start off. What's the first Tales game you played?
Tales of Zillia.
Zillia, and that was PlayStation 3 exclusive. For
I
me,
think it was
yeah.
I think it was on 360 as well.
No, it wasn't. It was a PS3 only game, I can tell you that.
Oh, really? Okay. I
Yeah.
for some reason was thinking that that was a weird era of gaming.
Yeah, no, because like the one that came out on 360 was Vesperia.
Was Vesper, yeah, which is your entryway into the series, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that was the first one I actually played, but if you want to talk the first one I actually completed, it was actually Tales of Grace's F.
The only one I've completed to date, by the way, is Zillia 1.
And okay, so but there's a question with Zillia 1. Did you play both sides or did you only play one side?
I only played Mila's, then I played a bit of Jude's, and then my fat PS3 died.
Boo. Actually,
And then I
knock
was
on
just
wood
like,
here, if you can hear it. My PS3 still works, and I actually want to do a run of Zillia at some point again, because I only played it as Jude. I didn't play all of Milia's story yet.
every time I hear the character Jude, I want to play the Beatles song.
But the thing with
Oh, by the way,
yep,
as an aside, did you know that they actually had to change Jude's name in Germany for localization reasons?
for that, what was the reason?
Because Jude means Jew in German. So
What did they change his name to?
I can't remember. I just know that that was a thing.
Hmm.
Hey, Chameleon Storm, if you're watching this video, comment what they changed his name to, because you'll probably know.
But yeah, the thing with Tails was like, and this is the thing that pissed me off with Zillia, because like they released Vesperia on 360 and it did just okay, and then we saw Zillia, but I think that game was being held hostage by Bandai Namco,
Probably.
saying was, you want Zillia to come out here, show your support by buying Grace's F.
Yeah.
I did that, so I bought Grace's F and I played through Grace's F. And by the way, Grace's F was actually pretty good. And it makes up apparently for that Wii version.
I've never played any of the Grace's games.
Yeah, because they, if I remember correctly, Grace's was originally released on the Wii, and it was very buggy. So Grace's F is the fix and the re-release of that game. So if you're going to play Grace's, the PlayStation 3 version is the one you want to play for that.
Makes sense. More powerful hardware, too.
Mm-hmm. And then, yep, go on.
I'm gonna just say this real quickly, because I don't think I'll have a point to say it at any other time in this podcast. So, really, the Xbox push into Japan during the 360 era made almost no sense.
They tried. There were some good games, though.
There were, but the thing is, I think Microsoft should have realized we're never going to make it in Asia.
But you can't blame them for trying. They're still trying.
Yeah, and they're going to be opening exclusive studios to Xbox in Japan. I don't see that going very well. I've done
But who
a video
says they're
on
going to
that,
be
by
only
the
on
way.
Xbox, though?
Well, it did say that they would be exclusive games, so...
But Xbox and PC. Remember Microsoft's push?
Yep. And the thing is, that could be up in the air now, too, because Hi-Fi Rush. that's on PlayStation now.
Mm-hmm. So, but who's to say, like, they can still put it on other consoles? It would just maybe be Microsoft published.
Yep.
So,
But
that's
either
a
way,
possibility. But anyway, right?
yeah. It was just a rabbit hole I wanted to go down real quick. You can
Mm-hmm.
go on for your thought that you were going to say
Yeah.
before I interrupted you rudely.
At least
Sorry.
going back with like with the Tales stuff. So we've gotten that, and then Zillia. I still need to play its sequel, Zillia 2, though.
I started Zillia 2. I rented it from the library. Amazing game.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this. Some weird design choices because of the debt system.
But then again, there was another game that did that, and I think it was the Misadventures of Tron for PlayStation 1.
Is that how you got your username, the McBond part?
No.
Okay, I really gotta ask, how did you come up with the username?
My friend just gave it to me.
Fair enough.
It's just like, I just picture it to you. I just picture you as that, and that's it. Be like, okay, I can't really think of anything else, so I'm just gonna stick with this.
And how did you come up with the term McBuns for, like, your community?
Bonbons. Well, bonbons is an actual
Yeah.
French term for candy.
True.
It just
I
sounds
knew
funny
that.
in my head.
Gotcha. And how come you've got so many bun emotes?
Here's the answer. Why not?
Okay, I thought there was maybe some kind of butt joke in it.
Well, I know you like the...
Totally TOS-friendly item.
Well, that's going to be edited out now, so...
Oh no, I think that's probably just going to stay in and probably be bleeped just to get
just to
around.
be safe. Just to be safe, please. But
Yeah.
anyway, continuing on with that. But yeah, no, like, you hit it off when we started this. There's been delistings of them on the PlayStation 3, and... even the Vita one with Tales of Hearts are, but the Vita store shut down a while ago, I think. So.
No, the Vita store is still going.
PSP store. PSP store, that's the one I was thinking of, sorry.
Yeah, that's been shut down for almost a decade, I think, at this point.
Yeah, that one's been off for a while, but yeah. No, the games are being delisted, and the problem is that you don't really have any other ways to play them unless you've already bought them digitally off the PlayStation store, or you own physical copies.
Which I own Zillia digitally. I own Hearts R digitally as well, and yeah.
Yeah, I actually own the Symphonia Chronicles, so Symphonia and Dawn of the New World, digitally, but I ended up going on eBay and buying a physical copy of it for PS3.
How much did that set you back?
$20.
Okay, that's not too bad.
This is probably before the prices are going up.
Yeah, well, because retro games, they can either be really deflated or really inflated in terms of price.
Like, look at the price of, say, Legendia on PS2.
How much is that? I'm guessing $100?
No, it's like 60. I think the cheapest one I saw was, like, Legendia with the strategy guide for, like, 70 or $80.
That's a decent deal, I guess.
Which is decent. And Legendia is actually one I've been wanting to play. Because Shinky mentioned it in one of his videos, and Legendia is actually one I've been wanting to try because it looks interesting. But with the other ones, like, I do now have Symphonia on PS3 physical. I own Zillia physical. I own Graces physical. I also own Zillia 2 physical, and Hearts R physical on the Vita.
This really proves the point that physical media matters.
But that's another rabbit hole we can go down when it comes to that.
We'll do another podcast on that eventually. We'll set some time aside next week for that, maybe.
Yeah, we'll set some time soon for that so we can get that out of the way, because like physical preservation is another kind of is another thing that needs to be taken into consideration here. But the thing is, if you own a physical copy of it, then you can still play these games, because as far as I know, these games don't have online requirements.
Nope, which is a concern more in the PS4, PS5 era.
Yeah, which is really dumb, because, again, that's something we can talk about in a physical discussion. I'm looking at you, Star Wars Outlaws.
Okay, we're gonna cut this part out of the video.
Have fun with this, editor. But anyway, we're gonna continue on with that, because, like, the reason we bring up the physical copies of these games, because if you don't own them digitally, you can't get them anymore. These are the only ways you're going to play these games. But this probably won't stop here. What's going to happen with the newest releases? Like, what's going to happen with Zestiria, Berseria, the Vesperia remasters? Like, I know those are eventually going to go at some point.
They might, or they might not, because I think that a continuous storefront is going to be part of the gaming ecosystem going forward.
It's kind of going to have to be now.
And I think that proves, like, this little thing proves it.
At least with that. But it's also, like, the idea of the games being compatible with the platforms, because, like, at least Symphonia, I don't think we would have to worry too much about a bit, because Symphonia did get a re-release, or kind of another remaster for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, here's something else to keep in mind. Like with PS4, PS5 games, I don't think we're going to see too many delistings going forward.
Unless they're licensing issues. That's really the only thing, right?
Right, which is becoming less and less of an issue going forward.
It's still a problem, though, but I think in the case of the Tales games, it shouldn't be much of an issue, but it's just the idea of trying to play the older stuff.
And I think there's a very good reason why they delisted the older stuff.
Is it have anything to do with maybe the store eventually being on its last legs?
I think that's part of it, but I also think that Bandai Namco have some surprises in store for us in the very near future around Summer Games Fest. I think they're going to announce a whole bunch of remasters of Tales games.
Because I think I remember reading in an interview a year or something plus ago where Arise is not the end of Tales. They have more planned.
Exactly.
Especially when it comes to the classic stuff.
And the thing is, Arise is one of their best-selling games of all time in that franchise, if not the best.
And like at least with the bit that I've played of Arise, it is very good.
It is very good. And I feel like Arise was literally a proof of concept of what they want to do going forward. I think that they used it as a test bed to see if the fan base would latch onto it, or if they would just be like, we want something different.
Which it seemed to work out well. I think the only weird thing you could say about Arise is just the DLC release like 2 years later.
Which is almost a whole other game, not just a typical expansion.
Yeah, it's not just like a 3 or 4 hour game.
No.
It's just weird that they would do that long out of release. I think is the only thing.
I think part of it is probably because of when Arise released, which was still during the height of the pandemic era.
Yeah.
I think that probably caused delays for the DLC. I imagine that the DLC was supposed to ship a year later, not 2 years later.
Yeah, so because again, like when we're still seeing effects of like what happened during the pandemic.
Yeah. Which is why I think this generation of gaming has been so slow.
It's slow and it feels like it's also underdeveloped, and we're trying to move on to the next one already.
Which I think is stupid. I don't think that we're going to see next generation systems for quite a while yet, though.
Because you're talking proper next gen. We're not talking refreshes.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You broke up.
You're talking about new systems, not mid-gen refreshes here.
Yeah. And even then, I don't think we're going to really see mid-gen refreshes this generation.
Even though we have those talks of, like, the Pro.
We have talks of them, but the thing is, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, we'll have to see what comes to fruition, but when it comes, at least going back to what we were talking about with Tales, like, again, there's still more they can do with it, and I know there's, like, a demand from fans to see that all the previous stuff, like, prior to PS4, come back out, because those can't be forgotten, and the idea of these delistings you said could be a sign of something to happen in the future.
Yeah, and I think it's a remaster because think about it this way. They've reached saturation point in terms of sales for what they can get on those old storefronts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like you can get those games brand new anymore from a retailer.
Yeah, you're
It's
dealing
going to
with
be
the
used.
second hand at that point.
So Bandai Namco does not benefit in any way, shape, or form from the physical side. And in terms of the digital side of things, they're not going to see many more sales anyways, so they might as well pack up.
And let's be honest, the PlayStation 3 storefront is going.
At
It's
some
just a
point.
question of when.
Yep. Because the PS3 came out in 2006. That's almost 20 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm. And next year is going to be 20 years of Xbox 360.
Yeah.
We're getting up there, people.
I mean, I already felt old when I was a teenager, so
Oh, you
imagine...
ain't seen nothing yet.
I'm 33 and I feel like an old fucking man.
Wait till old actually hits you.
Okay, what do you class as old then, crazy goat?
Well, thank you. Ah!
Yeah, because, I always come into your stream and announce myself with the goat.
Mm-hmm. And I bet you when I take that away, you're gonna go, the fuck?
Yes.
No, I mean, old is old, it's just a number.
Yeah, and I was just making a joke.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like with these, I think like these games need those, especially the ones from the PS3 and 360 era, do need to return in one form whatsoever. It would be nice to see some quality of life improvements as well too, because I mean we saw that with Vesperia, because like that Vesperia one was basically based off of the PS3 version, which we never got here.
Yep.
So,
I think that what the delisting indicates, though, is they're either going to bring it back via PlayStation Plus, or Xbox Game Pass, or possibly both, or full-on remasters, or even remakes.
yeah, like at least for PlayStation, you could see that with the Zillia games and even Graces. But I do think like if there was remasters that need to happen, both Zillia 1 and 2 should be the highest on the priority list.
I agree, because they are the best ones after Arise, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I
still
feel like
need to play
Arise
through
does some...
Arise though, so I can't say anything to that yet.
From what I've played of Arise, though, I feel like Arise does some things better. I feel like Zillia does some things better. If they kind of hybridize the two, that's the perfect Tales game.
That could be for the next installment.
Because there's something just way more fluid about Zillia and Arise for me. The combat just makes sense, and it's fun and easy to pull off the combos.
So it's definitely curious to see what they do with it. But I think like the Zillia games, at least for sure, both Zillia 1 and 2 should come back. Do something like what, say, NIS and Falcom did with Cold Steel 3 and 4 on PlayStation 5.
Mm-hmm.
Put both in as a double pack or something.
I agree with that.
But, do some quality life improvements with it. Obviously, run it at higher resolutions. You can probably stabilize frame rates if it needs to be. But I don't think you'd need to do too much with those games to make it work. But hopefully those won't be the only ones.
I imagine we'll see more.
I think the curious one, though, like, if you were to pull stuff from, like, from that era specifically, Hearts R.
Mm-hmm.
That would be one, but we can even go further back than that.
Like, we could even go back to the PS2 era.
I'm saying further.
PS1 era?
Super Nintendo.
I forgot the series even started on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, like, I imagine, though, like, those ones should come out, especially, like, the PlayStation ones as well, because, what was it, Destiny 2? Did that ever come out here? I don't know if it did.
I think it did, but I can check.
Mm-hmm. But that would be one, but, like, Legendia would be another one. Abyss, because, like, the last time we got a re-release of Abyss was on 3DS.
I would love to see a ground-up remake of Abyss with modern graphics.
What if that could be the next Tales game? that
I
releases.
would fuck. I would fucking freak out in the best way possible.
But yeah, like, I know Abyss is another one that's beloved by fans.
Destiny 2 never came to the West.
Okay, so that would be one. I think that one should maybe be higher than on the list. If you were to bring, say, a Tales game here,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe that one could be remade. Do something akin to what happened with Live Alive.
Which, by the way, I loved.
Yeah, Live Alive is just so damn good.
I agree. What was your favorite setting? I haven't completed it yet, but I definitely loved the Old West the most.
I actually really liked Near Future.
That was pretty cool too.
But the one I want to talk about, I don't want to say anything because it's a spoiler. So let's just say it's the last one.
Okay.
So I'm not going to spoil anything for you. By the way, if any of you have not played Live Alive, it's a unique classic and deserves to be played.
And I would say that it really inspired the design choices for the Octopath games.
You could say that definitely.
Um,
But yeah, for Tales,
so what are
though,
some...
like, yeah, they should bring back all that stuff, like re-release it on modern platforms, if possible, because like those games are kind of just stuck. They're just stuck right now, and the only ways you can play them is if you want to buy them physically and you have the hardware for it, or we use emulation.
Yep.
So you're kind of limited with some of your options for that, but I also feel like people who liked Arise kind of would want to delve back into the series history.
I agree with that. And you know what would be kind of cool if they did like a very limited edition collector's version?
Of like
The
all those
Tales
old
of
ones.
the Tales of complete collection.
Mm-hmm. That
And
would be
just
a
be
lot of
like
games.
here's everything. Yeah, it's expensive. Suck it up.
Would you also put in the PSP games?
Yep. It's everything.
So, yeah. That would be a lot, but I mean, that would be cool to see. Like, I
I mean,
imagine they're
Final
probably gonna
Fantasy did it.
cherry pick some ones, but they
Yep.
shouldn't just focus on the popular ones.
Mm-hmm. Like Final Fantasy did the complete collection at one point during the PS3 era.
Mm-hmm.
That was very expensive, but it was a very cool thing.
So who's to say that they can't do it again? That like Bandai Namco can't do that.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of making them work for current platforms. That's going to be the thing.
Yep.
But yeah, like Tails, it's in a weird spot. I don't want
Do
to
you
see it
agree with...
disappear, though.
I don't want to see it disappear either. Do you agree with my assessment that they were pulled primarily because Bandai wants to profit off of a re-release?
I could see that being true. Like, the only thing is that we just need to hear word of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have word of said re-releases, because, again, some of those prior ones, like, they've only been focusing on the popular ones, like Vesperia, like, we saw that with Abyss, like I talked about earlier, but there's still so much more. Symphonia as well, which I know that had to be fixed. Apparently that Switch version of Symphonia was not good.
Which is hilarious because you'd think that people would realize by now that it's aging hardware that was a potato to begin with.
But yeah, like, they've only been focusing on the popular ones. There's still a vast library of things for them to go for. So it's possible that they could just be delisting of it, and there could be possible remasters coming in the future. Or it could just be, like I said, the idea of, like, you know, the PS3 store's on its last legs. Let's just get it out.
Yep. What do you think are the most likely ones to get remastered soon, versus rather than later?
Again, I'm just going for wishful thinking here, but Zillia 1 and Zillia 2.
I agree with that, and I think Abyss. I think those are going to be the primary ones.
Abyss would be another one, definitely for sure, because like I said, the last one we got was on the 3DS. But here's the thing, if they do Abyss, which version of Abyss do you use?
Maybe they go a ground up remake.
Like we were
Like I
kind of
said.
just guessing, like that would be the one thing that would knock your socks off. Just do a full remake
Yeah.
of Abyss.
Yep.
That would be interesting to see. Because I don't think they would do a remake of Symphonia since that remaster already came out.
No, they definitely wouldn't do that unless they pulled an Atlas, because Atlas was like, oh, hey, here's Persona 3 Portable. Oh, a couple weeks later, Persona 3 Reload just came out.
But I feel like
Or just got announced.
if they're gonna do that, like, give us Dawn of the New World. The sequel
Which
for
would be
Symphonia.
which would be an interesting one, for sure.
Yeah, because I mean that's the one thing that kind of pissed me off with the announcement of that remaster of Symphonia for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One and Switch. It's like, okay, you have Symphonia. Why didn't you bring over a sequel? You had it in the PS3 version.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that. Unless you're gonna tell me you're gonna say it's harder to do that version compared to just Symphonia.
For sure. Also, one reason I think that Abyss might get remastered is the fact that Tyr is one of the most popular characters in the whole of the franchise.
Yes, that is true. Tyr is high up there on the list I've always seen. But I mean,
She has a nice design, so that's probably part of it.
I mean, true. But to be fair, I mean, like, Julie is still one of my favorites.
Why is she one of your favorites?
I also like elf characters.
Fair enough.
But I mean, like, for me, peak design is still Rapide.
He is pretty well designed, yes.
Come on, a dog that smokes a pipe.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you don't really see. I mean, Rapide, best Tails character. Fight me.
I can't disagree with that. I can't disagree. Here is something that I'm considering, just as a general discussion point. I think that at Summer Games Fest or Tokyo Game Show, we're gonna get a lot of Tales stuff.
Isn't there another Tales, like a Tales of Anniversary stream happening this year?
Babble for a bit, I will go look.
Yeah, I think, because normally Tales does one every once in a while, but like Summer Games Fest would be an ideal place to show it. You also have Gamescom. TGS would probably be a big one, though. But I mean, with those, like, I think those could happen, but the Tales Fest, like, if they do a Tales Fest, that's probably your big reveal. Because they did one before, a couple years ago, I think, or last year, right? Or are you still looking at...
They did a special live stream in August of 2023 for Tales of Arise.
Yes, so who says they could probably do one in August? But August is also Gamescom time, too.
Yeah.
So there could be a reveal, like a special Tales event for it.
But I think this summer we're going to get some kind of news regarding Tales, and here are some of my predictions. You can make some predictions after me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're going to see the Xillia remake / remaster. I think we're going to see the...
Wait, both Xillias or just the first one?
Both.
Okay.
I think that we're going to see the next Tales game, like a brand new entry.
Okay, so new installment.
And I think that we're going to see some kind of like really obscure Tales game announced as a remaster or remake. I think those are what are going to happen.
Like, yeah, if we were to go obscure, what do you think? The handheld games?
Probably.
The handheld games, so like that's either Hearts R or, I guess, Radiant Mythology. Which apparently people don't speak too highly of the PSP games.
I wonder why. I've never experienced them, so I can't say why, but I think you have experience with them.
I tried a little bit of it, but I didn't play too much. I think Shinky would know more on like those games, because I know he's the Tales guy.
Yeah.
So you'd have to ask for his input on that one. But I mean, if you want to go obscure, I mean, like another one would be, what about remaking Destiny 2?
At that point, remake both Destiny games. Just make it a collection.
Do a collection of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2?
Yep. Because don't they tie in story-wise pretty heavily?
I believe so, because like I think that was the first one to do that, and then Zillia 1 and Zillia 2. But there was also Symphonia and Dawn of the New World as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
So it makes remaking or remastering those ones a bit trickier.
you're basically rebuilding those from the ground up at that point, unless you do like an HD 2D thing.
Which maybe they'll do that because that is kind of the flavor of the month at present.
For some games, but also, have we really seen like a big AAA HD 2D release, HD 2D engine game, even though I know it's Unreal Engine, but HD 2D in real time? Almost all the ones we've seen have been turn-based stuff.
What would you classify the Star Ocean game remasters as big budget AAA?
I would consider those big budget. I don't know if those are like AAA and stuff, but they're on the same board, I would say, as like Alive as the Live Alive game.
Okay. But they technically were action, so
That I guess that one would technically count then for it. So we've had one instance, but it's been like, it's not the same engine, I think. I think it's a different one.
either way, we at least have one.
We have one at least, so it proves that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
So it proves that it can be done, and if it were, and we know how well Star Ocean did.
Exceptionally well.
So who's to say that, you can't do like a classic Tales game? Like even the Super Nintendo one would be cool to see in that style.
Definitely. Who knows? Maybe that is in the works. But do you have any predictions, John?
At least for that, yeah, like I could go off the idea of like Summer Games Fest, maybe. But I would probably say like if they're gonna do another Tales anniversary stream, I think that's where you could see some information there. But yeah, I mean a remaster of say the Zillia games for that, and then possibly a big one would be, why don't you remake one, like a classic one, like remake Abyss, or even do something with Legendia, for instance.
Do you think that, so those are what you're predicting will happen? Just to...
Like, I'm predicting a big one for sure will happen as a remake. It's just, I couldn't tell you which one, though.
Gotcha.
Because there's too many options. Like, my wishful thought would be Abyss.
I just wanted clarification, that's all.
But yeah, remaster, I would say, if we're going to be clarifying things, remaster of the Zillia game, of Zillia 1 and 2 as a double pack, remake a classic one, and then tease a new installment of Tales.
What would you like from the next Tales game?
If you were to... what would I want from the next Tales game?
Yeah.
Dual protagonist.
Definitely would like that.
And this is... and even though I haven't played a lot of this one, I still love this idea, and I want them to expand upon it more. I want an anti-hero story.
I'd definitely be down with that, and that's kind of what Mila was in Zillia. At least the first one.
At least a little bit, but I'm thinking more of like with Velvet, with Berseria.
I love Velvet as a character.
Yeah, so like I would personally want to see, like, if they do a new Tales game, go back to the idea of an anti-hero, and do a dual protagonist thing. Why not do the sides of, say, you have your anti-hero and then you have your hero who's trying to fight the anti-hero, and then you could have a story part where you can have them multiple cross paths, but then they eventually unite together and stop an evil threat that's bigger than both of them.
I would love that. I'd also love to see them do a sci fantasy, kind of like what Zillia did.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just think that's untapped potential for media in general, sci fantasy.
Yeah, like you see it a little bit with like the Star Ocean games, but that goes more sci-fi than fantasy based.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to that stuff, right?
Yep.
But like, even a theme, even like a setting shakeup would be cool to see. Like, if you want to go insane, like besides doing like a one world thing, why not do different timelines? Like, if you could do like kind of time travel of sorts.
So sort of what Zillia 2 did,
In a sense.
or tried to do.
In a sense, it tried, but it didn't. I don't think it worked the best by what I heard of it. It worked well, but not great.
It was pretty clunky.
Mm-hmm. And that was their attempt at it.
I feel like it was a case of the game was releasing pretty close to the end of the PS3's life, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it just so happened to be one of those games that had lots of ambition, but failed to deliver on said ambition.
Like, it tried something, but you can definitely tell they can do more with it.
I honestly feel like Zillia 2 was a pretty rushed game.
I feel like it was as well. The weird thing with Zillia 2 is that it kind of felt like an expansion pack or a side story that they just built out into a bigger game.
Yeah. It felt bloated at points.
Mm-hmm. Like, at least like the debt thing and the time system for it, because it did feel like you were on a timer, I believe, for it to pay that off.
Yeah, but it was a very soft cap.
Yeah, it wasn't strict as some other games, but it did feel kind of just shoehorned in, right?
Yeah.
But like, maybe expand upon those systems, but I still think the idea of like an anti-hero and a hero kind of maybe clashing with each other and then kind of uniting at the end would be an interesting idea.
I have an interesting idea just now to shake up the formula a little bit.
Yep.
What about this? You're playing as the bad guy.
I could see that as an interesting idea too. Because like, that would be something too. You see it from the enemy's perspective, like what they think they're doing is right.
Yep. And there's so much more that they could do with that, and they could deconstruct the hero, the anti-hero, the villain. They could deconstruct all of those archetypes and just put them in a blender and do something really interesting with that.
I think the only things that the new Tales games should do is, like, I still keep real-time combat the focus, but maybe add another like layer or wrinkle to it. Because like, Arise's combat was actually pretty fun, where you could do like the link system and all that.
Yep.
Go maybe a little bit farther with that. But also, like, the idea, I know you can do it with some of the games too, where you can actually swap out with your characters.
Yep.
But maybe make that more kind of intricate for gameplay mechanics, so it's just like you could keep this insane chain going, and then you could pull off like a giant ultimate attack that involves everybody at once.
I would love that. Also, here's another idea that I've kind of got. You know how Trails introduced the Brave Orders, right?
Yep.
In Cold Steel 3? Imagine that kind of system where you just press on one of the face buttons, for example, and a character that you've got in reserve can give your party some kind of buff or debuff the enemy in some way.
Why not do both?
Well, because balance.
Yeah.
But I'm just
well, I mean, if you want to break balance, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's definitely something. Like, I could see that happening too. There's so much they can do with it, but I want to see what the plan is, because I think like enough time now has passed for a Tales game. I said Trails. Damn it. But I'd say
it's
for a
okay.
Tales game, yeah.
A lot of people get the stumble over that, so it's fine.
But yeah, no, I think it might be time for a new Tales game, and like this, and they proved themselves with Arise. Let's see what else they can do.
I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new Tales game, like a brand new one, next year. I imagine they're just waiting until closer to next year to announce it. I actually kind of feel like that's the case for a lot of games next year. I think that's why it seems like it's going to be such a weak year, because I think everyone's waiting on what Grand Theft Auto does.
Yeah, and that's really kind of the sticking point here. So what's the deal with Grand Theft Auto?
Yep.
When is it
I
coming
think
out? Because everybody wants to stay out of its way. You put anything in that month, you're kind of screwed.
I think it's going to be holiday season, so anywhere from September to early December.
Because that's where they could probably make a lot for it.
I mean, it's going to make a lot no matter when they release it, but I think
Mhm.
that that's when they will release it because they're going to be like, fuck all the other AAA games. We're going to fuck you all over. Fuck you. I think that's going to be kind of the viewpoint that Rockstar is going to try to do.
Well, I'm curious to see what Rockstar has with that game because it's going to be another winner for sure.
Not what I'm interested in,
Mhm.
but I do acknowledge that it does have a great impact on the industry.
Yeah, it does. But like, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna play it myself because it's going back to a setting that I like and we haven't seen for a long time.
Honestly, I might pick it up anyways just to try it out because I did kind of have fun as a kid in Vice City.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice to see a
So,
modern take on Vice City because we haven't gotten modern Vice City yet.
yeah. So, like, I'm mildly interested, but, like, the last time I really enjoyed a Grand Theft Auto game was 4.
And four is still a great game.
Yeah. But I'm like, the entries after that, I'm just like, who really fucking care?
I still want to try out the DLC for 4. Like, I still need to play The Lost and Damned and The Ballad of Gay Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did hear good things about those.
I'm just pointing out, though, that, like, as a whole, after 4, I kind of felt done with Grand Theft Auto. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I'd experienced everything I could want from the franchise.
It's like, this is it. This is all I need, right?
Yeah.
But going back to what we were saying, at least with possibly a new Tales game coming out next year, I think a lot of people, a lot of companies are just watching that. So is GTA is scheduled for 2025, but when? Because they want to try and stay clear of it.
Yep. Like, even if it's not a genre that has any crossover with GTA, they're just going to want to avoid it because they know that that's what's going to get the attention, that's what's going to get the sales, and stay out of its way.
Yeah, I mean, unless you want to be crazy and like, oh hey, we're going to release our brand new game the same day. You're basically just signing your death
Exactly.
warrant at that point.
Yep. Unless it's some weird indie game, in which case, is it really going to have got any attention anyways?
I know, Hades 2 comes out on the same day as Grand Theft Auto 6.
In which case, I could actually see a war between those two.
I think if you want to talk indie, the one that could maybe have an impact that everyone's waiting for is Hollow Knight Silk Song.
Which, it's concerning because it was supposed to come out every year since 2020 and it hasn't.
So it's just like, this thing is still coming out, right?
I imagine it's going to be epic when it does.
It's making a big impact, but I feel like it's also falling into the same trap as Duke Nukem
Duke
Forever.
Nukem.
Yup. At least it's not a 13-year development cycle.
Yet.
True, yet. but no, like Tales, like if there's gonna be a new Tales installment, yeah, like I'm curious to see what they do with it. It would be curious if it comes out in 2025 because interesting fact, I think the first Tales game came out in 1995.
Let me take a quick look real quick just to see.
Yeah, because like that would be interesting to see for Tales. Yeah, it was 1995. I actually just pulled it up in Japan.
Yep, I just thought of something.
Yeah,
What about a Tales of Phantasia remake releasing next year?
because I mean that game. Yeah, all we have for it is like the Super Nintendo and a Game Boy Advance release. Like there was actually a release available for the PlayStation, but that was Japan
Just not
only.
here.
Yeah,
But what if they're like, okay, not a new one, but here, we're remaking the very first game. enjoy.
Yeah, here's where the series started. Enjoy this. And they
Yeah,
could
like
take advantage of it with modern hardware.
yep, like imagine the mic drop moment they could have at a festival for Tales if they were like what they could do is do a massive concert like what Falcom did when all of those games got like revealed
Yep.
at NIS, which was Zero, Azure, Reverie, and
Nayuta.
Nayuta. Yeah. What if they do that and they're like, okay, here is a Tales of Phantasia remake, and here's the brand new one. They're both coming out this year.
That would be nuts. And also, like, a concert would be good for Tails, because Tails honestly has some really good music in it.
It does. It does for sure. I would honestly love to see Atlas, Falcom, SNK, and the Tails team come together with like all of their bands that do the music
Mm-hmm.
and just cook.
Just like here. We're working on we have a game coming up, but we have all these music studios working together to make our soundtrack. To give it a unique landscape. We hope you enjoy.
Yep. Like just imagine what it would sound like if SNK's sound team JDK from Falcom, and then Atlas and the Bandai Namco team that does music for Tales like came together to do the soundtrack for one game.
It could be great. It could be some great stuff.
Also, I thought of something.
Hmm?
What if Mila gets added to Tekken 8 as a character? If they decide to like remaster or remake the Zillia games and they're just like, you know what? Here's an extra free everyone gets her DLC character.
That would be an interesting one to see, but who's to say they can't use tier?
What's Tyr's fighting style?
It's been a while since I've seen like what tier it like how she plays. It wasn't tier, let me just see, Tales of the Abyss. And I just know her last name now is Grants.
Yeah,
So I didn't know that about her.
I did.
Again, I haven't really played Abyss, so
I haven't played Abyss at all. I just know the character and like her.
tier could be interesting though. I think tier could fit, but also like Jude would be another interesting fit because Jude actually uses melee.
Yeah,
So, because Mila uses a sword.
true. And the spirits.
Mm-hmm. So you could maybe see Mila in a new Soul Calibur.
Which I think is going to happen. What about you?
I think it's time for it to happen.
You know what? I just thought of something. What if they did a. This is going to sound pie in the sky big brain here, but what if they did a Tales spinoff where it's a Tales of fighting game?
You know, that's something I was thinking about while we were doing this. Have the Tekken team or the Soul Cal team make a Tales fighting franchise. Because the Tekken
And
team
just.
worked with Nintendo for Pokken.
Yep.
Why not do
And
something
didn't
like
they
that for
also.
Tales?
Yep. I agree. But, like, hell, that would be an epic and fun crossover game.
Yeah, just combine like everyone from the Tales series into like kind of converge on this one installment cross universes.
Which they've done cross universes in the mobile games.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a brand new mobile game that lasts about a month in the near future.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me either. I think I actually tried that game. I remember on mobile. It was decent, but it wasn't anything spectacular.
That's how I feel about all mobile games, if I'm being honest.
It depends. Like they have to do something that really makes it stand out. Like I know they made a Tales game for the phone. Like I think they tried to make a proper new Tales game for it.
They did at one point, but yeah.
But yeah, Tales is in a weird place, and I do hope it does get its footing. because it would be sad to see the series go just kind of
I
like
don't think
into
I
oblivion,
don't
but
think
I
it'll.
doubt it's going to do that.
I doubt it's going to do that because it's one of Bandai Namco's biggest moneymakers.
But it's also one they seem to have not been doing a lot with.
The thing is, they've changed how the development cycle works, and I think that Tales of needs to go back to being kind of, yeah, release like one or two big budget AAA blockbusters every couple of years, like Arise. But it needs to go back to its roots of kind of being a double A action RPG.
That would kind of work, I think, for it.
Because the thing is, they could do fun stuff that would be interesting and in line with the series' goofiness if they went back to the double A mentality.
And they probably would have more freedom to do what they want with it.
Exactly. Also, keep in mind, Insomniac Games have said that modern AAA games, as they're constructed right now, are not feasible, and companies need to go to more AA experiences.
And I think what was it? One of the head over at Saber mentioned the same thing. It's just like the 70 like these games can't be as viable anymore.
And it's because they've reached market saturation, and they're all kind of generally the same.
And they're getting expensive to make, and like your returns are really not as there, really aren't there anymore.
No.
Right? Like the
And
model
I
is
think
going
that,
to change.
and that was why, to me, PS4 sucked for most of its lifespan, because it took so long to get any of these big budget games.
And you're still kind of seeing that here.
Exactly. It's like slow burn, slow burn. Oh, I'm gonna blow my load all over the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm. Which is something I would maybe want to see in the next gen. Like,
Yeah.
don't go too big with your releases. Like, you can still do your big AAA releases. Like, still do those every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe lower your development costs. Don't go insane with this stuff. And just have fun with it, because it's almost like... Because there doesn't seem to be as much fun anymore.
Which is something the 90s and early 2000s had in spades, was like, games were really fun. They were low budget a lot of the time, but they were kind of like trailblazing. They were figuring things out as they went and pioneering. And I think that we need another pioneering age, and I think that can happen.
Like, that could happen with this gen. But it almost seems like with the decisions that that are being made, and then like you're seeing like older stuff kind of like I said being delisted, and then potentially they could do stuff with it in this new stuff with the new generation or this current one. There's a lot of questions and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then with how games are being distributed and how they're being released and stuff,
Yep.
it's kind of a mess. Like the worst thing I would say is this. Let's say they do a remaster of Xillia 1 and 2. Don't do what the Spiral Reignited Trilogy did. Which is, the first game's on the disc, the rest of it you have to download.
They did fix that eventually, by the way.
Yes, there was an eventual re-release. It was just a quiet one, though.
Yeah.
That put everything on the disc. But don't do anything like that. Like, here's half of Xillia on the disc. You need to download the rest of Xillia and Xillia 2. Don't do that.
I know, that's pretty... Yeah, don't do that. That's pretty silly. And, if need be, break it up into multiple discs.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right?
Exactly. We played PS1 games that had 4+ discs, and we liked it.
Like, I don't see what the problem... But apparently people have issues with multi-disc games, I guess.
Which, you know what? Here's an idea. PS6, Xbox, whatever the fuck they're gonna call this one. Put in a multi-disc changer. Boom.
I don't think that's the issue. I think the thing with that is just like with publishers and developers, how they program their games. Make it work across multiple discs. If you need to put multiple discs for installs, that's fine. We don't
Yeah.
have a problem with that. Square has proved this
Yep.
with Rebirth.
Yep. And Remake.
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't see what the problem is, and honestly, it reminds me of classic PC gaming back in the day.
Yep.
Because PC games came on multiple discs,
Yep.
and I have no problems with that.
Me either.
But yeah, this is just us. Now we've just basically gone off track with what this is, but hey, it still kind of ties into the idea. Like,
It's related.
it's related to this. Like, Tales does need to return. It needs to, like, with these remasters and stuff, don't be afraid to, experiment with things. Like, if they experiment with the next Tales game, I'd be curious to see what they do. Like, with the ideas we were talking about. You play as a villain, or an anti-hero and a hero going up against each other. Or just expand the action combat. There's so many things that they can do, and it doesn't need to be triple fucking A.
And here's another thing that they could do that just out of the top of my head came up. Because we were talking about the fighting game crossover. What if they're like, okay, here's multiple beloved protagonists from various Tales eras. They're coming up to stop a multi-dimensional threat.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You can definitely do something like that.
Hell, Atelier tried it with one of their games. I can't remember which title, but I know they did it.
So there's possibilities, and Tales still has life in it, if Arise is any proof of that.
And I'd say that it is.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else you wanted to say, John?
Well, I mean, we could just keep going off on our tangent for, like, physical releases and all that stuff, but we're gonna save that for another podcast, or another discussion for us to have, right?
Yep.
But in terms of, like, Tales itself, yeah, bring back the classics. I think it's time for those games to return.
Also, do more sequels, because it would be really interesting to see heroes as they age, kids even, taking on adventures.
That, or even, like, say you finish the main quest, like, so they did this. Here's the repercussions. They thought they were doing the right thing, but instead this happened.
Exactly. Like, there's so much they could do.
There's so much they can do. There's so many possibilities. But that's really all I can say, at least for now, with it. But let's wait and see what's going to happen. If there's going to be, like, those reveals at, say, Summer Games Fest, TGS, like you were saying, or maybe even during a Tales anniversary stream, because I'm sure something is bound to happen there.
Same here. So, where can people find you, John, if they want to?
Well, if you would like to keep in touch or continue the conversation, I do have a Twitter, I do stream on Twitch, and I also make videos on YouTube under the name John McBon. Feel free to come by. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And Leifer, thank you for having me on this.
Yes, no problem. So, I've done multiple podcasts with John in the past. 2 of them will be popping up now. Why not check one of them out? And until next time, keep blazing that trail.